What's up, witches?
I'm Claudia.
And I'm Jess.
And welcome to
True Crime Coven.
Hey Jess, it's been a hot minute.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've been sat here recording.
I know. Well, I suppose for everyone listening, it hasn't been a while.
Yeah.
But for us, it's been like 3 weeks.
Yeah. Our busy schedules just haven't matched up.
No, such busy little bees.
I mean, you're busier than me at the minute.
I don't know, because normally you're the one who's like Miss Social Queen, and I'm like, I'm still here. And I'm still here.
Not during the weeks, no. Maybe on the weekend.
No, to be fair, you're always in bed by like 9.
Yeah, I am.
And I know
Social
if I text
till
you
9
after
o'clock.
9 p.m, you don't reply.
Oh, my phone goes into sleep mode and I don't even receive texts after 9:30.
Well, that explains everything. Basically, don't call Jess if you've got an emergency after 9 p.m.
If you ring me, it will like...
Mine does
and then,
that as well.
And then if you ring me again, it will come up because it will be like, oh, this must be an emergency.
Mine does that too.
Yeah.
But anyway, people don't need to know about that.
Yeah. Sorry, little insight into my old lady life.
We have 3 little announcements to make.
Mm-hmm.
Jess is looking at me expectantly because she doesn't know what announcements, but you can guess.
I think I know the announcements, but you didn't pre-warn me that we were announcing anything.
So the first one is a bit of an apology. I'm really sorry, but we mentioned that we might be doing a stream in one of the last episodes, and we're in fact not going to be. We just didn't get our act together in time and sort things out.
We've just been a bit too busy.
Yeah. So no birthday stream this weekend, but it is something we really want to do in the future.
Yeah, definitely.
We will be setting up a Twitch account at some point for it.
Maybe a summer stream to celebrate summer.
The other thing I wanted to say was that thank you for sticking with us whilst we've been trying out different things of our audio. You might have noticed that our audio's changed and at times it's been all about the place. That's because we've been trying new things. We've gone from 1 microphone to 2. So yeah, thank you for sticking with us when things have been like not exactly perfect, but you know, Simon's been working really hard to make it perfect.
Trying to edit out the background noise of the ferrets as well.
And the other thing I wanted to say, I referenced an episode and we realised that we've lost that episode. We haven't lost it, I've got it, but we forgot to ever release it.
Yeah.
So there's one point when I talk about sleeping underneath a radiator and people are probably like, I don't even know what you're on about.
Yeah.
But
I didn't click until it got released. That episode was released because obviously we did it in...
So it will make sense. It will probably be our next Ghost Stories episode. So basically, we're sorry for being chaotic.
Yeah. We just need to get our lives together.
But if you know me, I am a bit of a chaotic person. Yeah. I'm an Aries tornado.
And I'm just I just let Claudia do what she wants and then I turn up at her house and hope for the best. Yeah,
and I think that's too much in me. Too much belief in me. And with that, should we get on?
Yeah, let's crack on. Let's get started.
I tend to get coaches quite a lot, Jess. This is going somewhere, I promise.
Okay.
But I don't think you get coaches all that much.
No, I mean, I used to get them to London quite frequently because they were a lot cheaper than a train. But now,
that's why I get them.
Yeah, now that there's a pretty direct train, it's not actually that expensive if you've got a rail card.
I think they're pretty lawless places.
Yeah.
So like on my last coach I got, like literally the other week, there was a girl who just started singing out loud for like 25 minutes.
She sounds hilarious. Great.
Literally.
Actually, I think the last coach I got was when I used to do pitch side for a football team. And obviously used to have to get coaches with them for away matches. So it's just like me.
Yeah,
and
but then at least that's
players.
like a load of people you know. This is just some girls singing out loud.
I know. I knew them. But football players.
True.
Yeah. Well, so I used to sit with like the wives.
The wags.
the wags, yeah.
Well, this girl literally sang for like 20 minutes straight until someone told her to shut up, which was amazing because I was losing my rag a bit. But
I'm assuming not a good singer.
It wasn't even that. It's just like, why are you singing out loud? Like, we're all chilling.
Yeah, okay.
If we wanted to listen to you sing, I'd ask you to sing. But today, we're going to cover a story that took place on a coach.
Okay.
And this is, well, lawless is an understatement. So have you heard of the Greyhound Bus murder?
No, I don't think I have.
But do you know of Greyhound buses?
No.
So they're like an American thing, I think. Well, a North American thing.
Yeah.
And perhaps what I asked you was a bit of a trick question because I know there's been at least 2. So I think I'll never be getting a Greyhound, even though it's probably not their fault at all.
Yeah, that's not great.
No.
I guess though, because it's like a cheaper way of traveling, because I know obviously it's cheap in England. You can literally get to London on a megabus for £2 sometimes. And I know you can literally go from like one state to another for like a couple of pounds.
Oh, really?
A couple of pounds, a couple of dollars. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they've got like cheap
I mean, I can
coaches
imagine.
over there. So I do...
Anything's cheaper than our train system.
So you can imagine that those cheap fares attract...
All sorts?
All sorts, yes. And people on lower incomes and maybe people who are struggling for money for multiple reasons, but obviously people who have issues and that's why they're struggling with money.
We're by no means saying that lower income means, anything.
No.
That you're a bad person by any means.
No. Different
but
circumstances.
It just means you get a whole melting pot of people.
Yeah.
Well, our chilling story today actually takes place in Canada, which is why I said North America.
Yeah.
Which makes this our first Canadian case.
Oh, I feel like we should have a little celebration.
I really want to visit Canada.
Oh, same. My brother did it the right way. He got a camper van and drove around.
Oh, nice.
Went to a campsite and saw a bear in the shower. And it went to like tell the rangers, and they were like, by the way, there's a bear in the shower. And they were like, oh yeah, that's just like, I don't know what his name was. I'm going to say Reggie. Oh, that's just Reggie. He'll be done in like half an hour. Just leave him to it and then go back in half an hour and you can have a shower.
Trigger warning this week. We've got mental health being discussed, namely schizophrenia and also cannibalism. If these are things that you don't want to listen to, I completely understand. Just look after yourself and hopefully we'll see you next week for some spooky stories. Well, it was on July 30th, 2008 that a 22-year-old carnivore barker named Timothy Richard McLean Jr., affectionately known as Tim, boarded the Greyhound Bus 1170 at Edmonton that was travelling to Winnipeg, as he had just finished working a carnivore in Alberta and was now looking to travel back home. McLean climbed aboard the bus and headed to the back, selecting a seat just one row ahead of the toilet. At around 6:55 p.m, the bus departed from a scheduled stop at Erickson in Manitoba, where a new passenger climbed aboard. A tall man of Chinese descent with a shaved head and wearing sunglasses, appearing to be in his 40s. He at first sat himself down near the front of the bus, but after smoking a cigarette at another scheduled stop, he climbed back on board and swapped seats, deciding on one at the rear next to Tim McLean. This new passenger was named Vince Lee. According to fellow passengers, McLean barely acknowledged the man, although some sources claim that he smiled and asked how he was doing, but regardless, the two didn't have a prolonged conversation. McLean then fell asleep with his headphones on, his head lolling against the window pane. And this is how Tim remained, until the man sat next to him produced a large knife, and before anyone knew what was happening, Lee began stabbing McLean in his neck and chest.
Wow. That escalated from nowhere.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't give you much warning there, did I?
No, literally just, he's asleep, now he's dead.
McLean instantly began screaming in pain and tried to fight for his life, but Lee continued his attack. Perhaps even more chillingly was the fact that Lee showed no emotion as he plunged the knife into McLean over and over again. A couple sat opposite Lee and McLean were the first to notice and began screaming and ran to alert the bus driver. This alerted the other 32 passengers who also began screaming and running, afraid they'd be attacked next. Witness 26-year-old Garnet Caton, who had been sitting just in front of the two men, said that Lee seemed oblivious to the world around him, stating there was no rage or anything. He was like a robot, stabbing the guy. After being approached by the frantic couple, the driver swiftly pulled the bus over to the side of the road, where he and the others on board fled the coach, locking the doors as they exited, leaving Lee and McLean inside together. The driver and two other male passengers climbed back onto the vehicle in an attempt to rescue Tim McLean, but Lee quickly chased them away, slashing at them with his knife. And so the coachload of people could do nothing but stand and watch in horror as Lee began decapitating McLean.
Oh my God, that's horrible.
Once he had successfully removed his head from his body, which, bear in mind, he's doing this with a knife. It's not easy.
Yeah, I think movies portray that it's actually quite easy to cut someone's limbs off, but it's really depending on the sharpness of the knife,
it's going to take a while.
Your neck's quite a thick part of your body. If you think even a steak knife, how long it takes to cut through a fillet of steak.
Can't relate.
Yeah, but you've seen someone cut meat before. But to get through not just the tissue but the bone and
And your spine?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's
like all the tissue around there, it's like even the cartilage is
unless
really
you've got a
strong.
knife, it's going to take a while.
Yeah.
Once he had successfully removed his head from his body, Lee held the head up to show to everyone outside, displaying it proudly before dropping it to the floor of the bus by the closed coach doors. He then returned to the headless body and began severing other parts of McLean and eating his flesh.
Oh my God.
At 8:30 p.m, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police were informed of a stabbing on a Greyhound bus and arrived to the scene to find Lee still on board and the coach doors guarded still by the bus driver, a passenger and a truck driver named Chris Algier, who had stopped to help and provided a crowbar and a hammer as weapons to use in self-defense if needed.
It's nice of him to pull over and just be like, oh.
I don't think he expected what he was pulling over for.
No, probably like, oh, that bus must be broken down. And then like, oh, there's a man decapitating somebody in there.
And eating them.
Yeah. Oh.
The rest of the passengers were huddled together at the roadside in various states of shock. Many were crying and some were even vomiting. The witness I mentioned earlier, Garnet Caton, was one of the group who was sick after witnessing Lee hold up McLean's severed head. Lee had attempted to make a getaway by driving the bus away from the scene, but the quick-to-act driver had engaged the emergency immobiliser system, which renders the coach inoperable, stopping Lee from going anywhere.
Oh, so the coach driver is actually pretty...
This coach driver, kudos.
Yeah, like he's pulled over, he's put on the emergency stop and he's locked the guy in.
Yeah.
Tried to go back on to help with support of other people.
Yeah. He's doing well.
Yeah.
But Lee wasn't keen on exiting the bus and giving himself up either. So at 9 p.m, finding themselves in a standoff with their suspect, the RCMP called in special negotiators and a heavily armed tactical unit to assist. Lee paced the bus up and down, continuing to cut and eat McLean's corpse. The RCMP allegedly overheard Lee saying to himself, "I have to stay on the bus forever." On July 31st, 2008 at 1:30 a.m, Lee tried to flee again. This time by breaking the back window of the bus, but he was quickly descended upon by police, resulting in Lee being tasered twice before being handcuffed and placed into the back of a police car. With blood still smeared on his face from the attack, Lee reportedly apologised to the police officers, telling them, "I'm sorry, I'm guilty, please kill me." When he was searched, officers found in his pockets McLean's ear, nose and tongue.
Ugh.
The rest of Tim McLean's body was recovered from the bus. However, his eyes and part of his heart were never found, and so are presumed to have been eaten by Lee.
This is going to sound really weird, but if you were going to eat someone, why would you start with their eyes?
Yeah, eyes isn't what I'd go for.
No. Oh,
I don't think I'd go for heart
either. No. I mean, I guess it depends why you're eating them. Like, in my head, the scenario is stranded on an island, and
I still think eyeballs
would be the last. No, I mean, surely you'd go for the leg muscles. You know, most meat on them as the first thing. If it's a life or death situation.
Yeah. Let's hope we're never in that.
Yeah, there's no. Oh, but yeah, eyeballs. Oh. Yeah, I'm just thinking of I'm a Celeb, when they have to eat fish eyes and they pop in your mouth. Oh.
I don't know.
Oh. I mean, why would you eat someone anyway?
Yeah. And so, who was this person who had just carried out a horrific and unprovoked attack on a young man minding his own business? Who was Vince Lee? Vincent Lee was born in Dandong, China, on April 30th, 1968, and worked as a computer software engineer in Beijing before immigrating to Canada on June 11th, 2001, becoming a Canadian citizen on November 7th, 2006. He worked at a church in Winnipeg for 6 months, and although he would sometimes become frustrated with the language barrier between himself and other staff members, the church pastor, Tom Castor, right?
Oh, what a great name.
Say that quickly 3 times. Said that Lee did not show any signs of anger issues during his time as an employee there. Lee moved to Edmonton in 2006, where he worked at a Walmart, a fast food restaurant, and delivered newspapers with his delivery boss, Vincent Auger, also stating that Lee showed no signs of any aggression.
I wonder why he got a job at Walmart and delivering newspapers. When he had...
I think he really struggled. I don't know if it was maybe the language
barrier. Probably.
But for sure, I think it could have been one of the stressors. And I actually didn't write about that later on, so I'm glad you brought it up. I think it was maybe one of the stressors.
Yeah.
Because could you imagine having I mean, there's nothing wrong with working in fast food or Walmart or anything. Like, I hate people who look down on people doing that. But if you're
But he's obviously a lot more intelligent at like his software. Oh yeah, okay. But yeah, he's obviously got like
if you're
experience as well in software development. Like you'd think, even with the language barrier, he would still be.
It must be really frustrating to train to do something and then not being able to do it.
Yeah.
And we all know how service employees are treated.
Oh my God, yeah.
So yeah, I can imagine it was
I can imagine
horrible.
the pay difference, because if he had worked as a software developer, like software engineer, sorry, that was the only job he needed, and now he's got 3 jobs.
I don't know if it was all at the same time.
Oh, okay.
4 weeks prior to the murder of Tim McLean, Lee was fired from Walmart following a disagreement with other members of staff. He then asked Vincent Auger for time off from his delivery job so that he could attend an interview in Winnipeg, and this is presumably why he was travelling on the Greyhound Bus 1170 on July 30th. But, if you remember, Lee didn't board the bus at Edmonton, despite living there. He had boarded at Erickson. This is because Lee actually began his journey the day before, on July 29th at around midday. He then disembarked early in Erickson, staying the night on a bench next to a grocery store with his 3 pieces of luggage by his side. One witness later recalled how they had passed him at 3 a.m. and saw Lee sat bolt upright with his eyes wide open. Later, on the morning of July 30th, he was holding up a sign which read, "Laptop for sale, $600 or best offer." An offer which a 15-year-old boy snapped up, settling on the low price of $60 with Lee.
Oh, wow. This
laptop was later confiscated by police, and a kind businessman bought the teen a new laptop for his honesty. So that's cute. He then, Lee, boarded the Greyhound bus, carrying his soon-to-be victim, Tim McLean, and, well, you know what happened next. Well, in answer as to why he attacked Tim McLean, our answer is apparently due to the voices in his head telling him to do so. According to Lee, when he sat down next to Tim McLean, the voice of God told him to kill the man next to him, or the demon, as he saw him, or be killed. A psychiatrist named Dr. Stanley Yaron, who examined Lee, would state that he was a schizophrenic who believed he was doing the world a service by killing the 22-year-old carnival worker. It would later come out in an interview in 2012 that Lee actually believed McLean to be an alien.
Wow.
He believed he'd been chosen by God to vanquish aliens and lived with deeply disturbing voices about aliens in his head since 2004. Lee would travel around on a quest to find aliens that he believed he was supposed to destroy. When he saw McLean on the bus, he thought he had found the alien that he was destined to kill. He had also been hospitalised in 2003/2004, the dates kind of differ.
Okay.
Due to an incident with Ontario police, after he was found walking along a highway following the sun as God had ordered him to. According to those that knew him, Lee was known to have mental problems. That's the quote it came from.
So not mental health problems, just mental problems.
Yeah. But was never diagnosed and was never violent. His ex-wife Anna said that during their marriage he would go away for long periods of time, presumably whilst he was looking for the aliens he had to kill, take unexplained bus trips and sometimes ramble, but never sought medical attention for this behaviour.
I mean, if he believed that he was trying to find aliens, he probably didn't think anything was wrong.
Yeah, I often think that, like, if it's something like schizophrenia, then often the people around them have to take them.
Yeah, because they don't.
Not that I'm putting this on them by any means,
but they obviously don't realise that there's anything wrong.
You're not going to think this is going to be the outcome.
Yeah. Also, is 2004 around the time that he worked at the church?
Yes.
Okay, so it could have started from working there.
Yeah.
Okay, so it could have stemmed from...
It could have, and I often think that time and time again we see that when you're unstable, whether you know it or not, I think being, and this isn't me blaming religion, but being around religion can often bring about, like, delusions about it. Lee stood trial on March 3rd, 2009 at Portage La Prairie Courthouse for second-degree murder and pled not criminally responsible on account of mental disorder. meaning that whilst he accepted that he carried out the offence, in this case the murder of Tim McLean, he was not responsible for his actions due to his mental capacity at the time, or lack thereof. The presiding judge, John Scurfield, accepted his diagnosis of schizophrenia and ruled Lee not criminally responsible for the killing. Whilst at the courthouse, Lee reportedly muttered pleas for someone to kill him. Lee was then remanded in Selkirk Mental Health Centre, where he would undergo treatment for his new diagnosis. Dr. Yaren stated at the time that Lee was still psychotic and believed that it was just a matter of time before God killed him. Lee was still suffering with auditory and visual hallucinations, but was started on strong antipsychotic medication to stabilise him. On June 3, 2010, Lee was granted supervised outdoor walks within the grounds of his mental health facility, which I think is really healthy. Like, why was he not started on that? Like,
surely that's good. Yeah, surely that's good for your mental health, is to be like outside.
Exactly.
Rather than just like cooped up in a little cell.
I mean,
looking at the same four walls.
Less than a year later, on May 30th, 2011, it was reported that Lee was responding well to his psychiatric treatments, and therefore he would begin receiving more freedoms, as recommended by his doctor. The following May, he was granted temporary passes that allowed him out of Selkirk Mental Health Centre so that he could have supervised visits to the town of Selkirk with a nurse and a police officer in tow. And then 18 months later, these outings were relaxed further. Lee was then allowed to have unsupervised visits to the town of Selkirk, starting at 30 minutes and relaxed eventually to full days out.
Oh, wow.
So these are like full days out unsupervised.
Yeah.
In 2015, Lee was given unsupervised day passes to Winnipeg. Now, the significance of this is that this is where Tim McLean's family reside.
Oh, okay.
Lee's privileges continued to be relaxed over time, and in 2016, he legally changed his name to Will Baker. However, for clarity, I am going to continue to refer to him as Vince Lee because...
Fair enough, yeah.
Finally, on February 10th, 2017, the Manitoba Criminal Code Review Board ordered Lee be discharged, and he was granted an absolute discharge, which meant he had no legal obligations or restrictions placed upon him. No one was going to check up on him to see how he was doing.
That seems very... I know he has had, like, progression to where he is now, but it seems like just going from being under full observation...
That's only in 8 years.
Yeah. To, like, nothing. Not even just, like, a checkup. Like, oh, here's a phone number if you feel like you're having an episode. Like, even therapy.
Yeah.
Like, regular therapy is
and
nothing.
That's the thing. Like, you're not the only one who thinks so, and we will get onto that in a bit more detail.
Yeah.
I just wanted to touch upon a little bit what went on for the other passengers on the bus. Understandably, many are plagued by what happened on that fateful day in July 2008. Some witnesses have developed agoraphobia, others have become addicted to alcohol and drugs to cope, and most have struggled within their lives day to day, within their jobs, their education, and just other responsibilities.
I bet they all get flashbacks like you would, wouldn't
you? Not?
Like, they probably all have PTSD.
They said that one of the main things they all suffer with is the scream they heard from Tim McLean, the first scream that alerted them all. That apparently, like, most of them just can't get that out of their minds.
I mean, because I think if you hear a scream, you don't necessarily think run in the other direction and don't look.
It depends on the scream, doesn't it?
But yeah, obviously, I feel like everyone at some point in their life has heard, like, someone scream in pain for whatever reason. Like, that almost, like, blood-curdling scream where you're like, oh...
But I can't imagine this type.
Yeah. Like, you know, sometimes you're like, oh, they've hurt themselves. But when you hear someone scream and you're like, oh, no, they've hurt themselves.
Yeah,
there's a difference. And then, obviously, if you hear someone scream, your first instinct is to look and see what's happening.
So they would have all seen something.
Yeah. And then you think, and then it's that fight or flight. You're like, do I help the man or do I save myself?
I think in this instance, there wasn't anything anyone could have done without getting hurt themselves.
No, because even the guys who tried to go back onto the bus, they were just getting slashed at by him. He was obviously in such, like...
I did see it said in one, actually a few reports, that the fact that Tim tried to fight back meant that Lee was very focused on him, and they believe that might be why no one else got hurt. Also, though, he could have just been focused on him because he believed that he was the target he had to kill. One fellow passenger, who subsequently began suffering with her mental health, gave birth to her daughter years after the attack on the bus, but had her newborn taken into social care after social workers became concerned that her mental illness and PTSD from the attack made her unfit to care for the infant.
That's so sad.
Thankfully, the child was returned to her mother's custody after 18 months, but that woman still can't get that time back with her daughter. Time which is so precious to establish a bond with your baby. Time which most parents would tell you passes by too quickly. The truck driver, Chris Algier, who stopped to help and ended up guarding the door of the bus, also struggles with PTSD. In 2018, he told CBC News that after 10 years, he has never stopped mourning the life of Timothy McLean, with his PTSD exhibiting itself as alcoholism and rage, going on to explain how he drinks to help him sleep at night.
Oh, poor man.
And it wasn't just members of the public who were affected by the scene that day. In July 2014, one of the responding officers first on the scene, Corporal Ken Barker of the RCMP, committed suicide at the age of 51 at his home, with his family stating in his obituary that he was suffering with PTSD from that day. He left behind a large family, including his wife and his 2 children.
Oh, wow.
Obviously, it goes without saying that the McLean family will never be the same. However, one thing that keeps him going is Tim McLean's son, who was born 5 months after his killing.
Oh, so his wife was pregnant with him when he got...
Yeah, so then I don't think they were still together.
Oh, okay.
And the boy now lives with his grandmother, Carol D. Deli, Tim's mum, and her husband. However, Timothy McLean Sr. hasn't seen his grandson for years due to disagreements with his ex-wife, and states that this only exacerbates the pain of losing his son.
Oh.
And I really hope they make up, because surely, more than anyone, I'm not telling them how to grieve, but life's too short.
Yeah.
Carol D. Deli, so that's Tim's mum, has protested against Vince Lee's discharge, even attending House of Commons and Senate committee meetings to ask for changes to the law in regards to cases where the person on trial is found not criminally responsible for their crime. In the same article from CBC in 2018, she stated, "Vince Lee got help. Good for him. Maybe he's feeling better today. My son's still dead. What if he chooses not to take his medications? We know what he's capable of." And as of today, Vince Lee, or Will Baker, has not committed any more crimes. He does appear to be living a good life and now poses no more threat than anyone else. But many argue that this could change completely if he stops taking his medication. And this brings us back to something that we've spoken about at length.
Yeah.
Just how responsible is someone who is mentally ill when they commit a crime? And should they be monitored for the rest of their lives? And it's definitely a hard one.
Yeah, I think just knowing what they are capable of, like Tim's mum said, like the fact, I mean, obviously you telling us what happened is like, you can picture how horrific it was. But for then also a police officer to take his own life because what he witnessed was that horrible, whereas you'd think a police officer, like,
it's pretty hardened.
Yeah,
like everyone's they do affected by what things they see, but like, I mean, we work in healthcare. We see horrible things, and I know that I am desensitized to a lot of it. Yeah,
like it sounds bad, but you do kind of like, it is kind of in the job description of a police officer that you will have to go and see horrific scenes. So the fact that this one stuck with him and made him like affected his life so badly, he thought the only solution was to take his own life.
Yeah,
it must have been horrific.
Yeah, I can't even imagine this scene. And I think, yeah, like it's one of those old things. Like, yes, do they deserve? Like, they deserve to be able to live without being scrutinized every day.
Yeah.
And perhaps the only way to get better is to not be constantly put in that box.
And it's nice that he got the help that he clearly needed.
Yeah, it seems Canada has quite a good system.
Yeah,
but we know that mental health has its highs and its lows.
Yeah,
I know from my own personal experience that my journey of mental health isn't linear. You know, I'm not constantly on an upwards trend. You know, you do dip, and that is recovery, and that is mental illness. And it's just like a lot of physical illnesses. You know, you have your good days and your bad days.
Yeah.
But most people with mental illness, when they have a bad day, it's a day sat on the sofa. It's a day where they are plagued with horrible thoughts. But, or maybe it's a day where they do act on those thoughts and they hurt themselves, but they tend to hurt themselves. And whilst that's sad, it makes them not a danger.
Yeah.
To others, at least.
Yeah.
But when we've got someone who knows that their bad days means that they are a danger to others, maybe there should be something in place.
And it's not just like any crime's worse than another, but it's not like he was just like going around with a knife just randomly stabbing like the air because he thought there was demons. Like, he cornered this person on a bus so that he couldn't escape, and then he started eating him.
Yeah, it escalated. It was a pretty... It's
As I know we talk about...
As violent crimes go, it's pretty up there.
And we've talked about like people who slowly build up to these things. Like, we have people who like start with like threatening someone at knife point, and then maybe they stab someone but not life threatening, and then they move on to like
there's definitely
murder.
escalation.
But yeah, to go straight into stabbing multiple times, decapitating, and then eating, like that's like very, very violent.
Very violent, very 0 to 100, because he didn't have any prior convictions. Obviously, he'd had this argument at work, but I mean...
Again, how much of that was like his anger issues versus his language barrier?
Yeah, because that would have been very difficult to not be able to communicate fully. I don't know how good his English actually was, to be fair.
Also, who's to say it wasn't like an unprovoked argument? You think if someone was arguing with him...
Exactly.
Like...
We don't know what the exact situation is, but regardless, to go from any sort of argument to cannibalism is a real jump.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. Like, there's the fact that people with mental illness deserve to not be demonized. But also, at the end of the day, when you've done something that's resulted in... Okay, you've killed someone and that affects them and their family, but look how many people this has affected.
Yeah.
This has caused people to lose custody of their children. It's caused someone to commit suicide, someone to turn to alcoholism.
Yeah.
And that's just 3 of the people.
Yeah, and you said there was like 30 people on that bus?
Yes, there's like 30 odd people on this bus.
Yeah. And the driver.
Yeah.
And the truck driver who stopped, and then the police officers on the scene.
Exactly.
All affected by it.
There was a piece written by Robin Urbach for the National Post, and I'm going to read an extract, and I think it just beautifully sums up my thoughts. Mental health advocates would probably argue that it'd be unfair to subject someone like Lee to monitoring for the rest of his life. And they'd be absolutely right. It is unfair. But nothing about mental illness is fair. It's not fair that Lee happened to be struck with paranoid schizophrenia and will have to take medication every day for the rest of his life. It's not fair that everyone on the Greyhound that night will be forever plagued by what they witnessed. And most of all, it's unfair that Tim McLean lost his life in such a horrific way, and that his family has been left to pick up the pieces. And that's where I'd like to end our case today, because I don't think there's much else to say to that.
No, I completely agree with that. Like, couldn't have put it better myself, really.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, a 22-year-old man lost his life. He had a baby on the way.
Yeah.
He had a job that he enjoyed as a carnival worker.
Yeah.
And he was apparently adventurous and full of life. So, yeah, a bit of an uplifting one this week.
Yeah.
I would definitely take anyone singing for the whole of my journey rather than
over that. Yeah. Oh.
Greyhound also have never really apologised. Not that they've got anything to apologise for, but they've never sent out their condolences. I
wonder what they did for the driver. Because in this story...
I couldn't find anything.
Yeah, because in this story, I feel like, as we did touch upon, the driver is quite quick thinking in this situation.
Saved lives.
Yeah. Yeah, there could have been a lot more casualties.
Stopped Lee from driving away.
Yeah.
Which wouldn't have ended well.
No. He got everyone safely off the bus and locked the doors.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Got the police there in quite a short amount of time.
Yeah. Kudos to the driver. I do know that the Greyhound at the time were running a slogan for their buses.
Oh, okay.
Which was, because you've never heard of bus rage.
Oh.
Yeah, that quickly got stopped.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, bad time to have that slogan.
Yeah.
But apparently they've never offered their condolences to the family.
Oh. Well, I hope that they did something for the bus driver at least, because I can imagine he's going to have some form of PTSD where he doesn't want to step foot on a bus again.
Yeah, I'm going to say he probably handed in his notice.
Yeah.
And I hope he got a good package.
Yeah, as you would.
Yeah.
Early retirement.
So, yeah, that's all we have today, guys.
Oh, it was a nice, interesting case. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's actually one that I got suddenly reminded of, and I was like, oh, I want to cover that, because I remember listening to it and being like, oh my God. For some reason, I always thought it was in Australia.
Ah.
And I don't even know if Australia have greyhounds. Maybe I just got something in my head.
Maybe.
But yeah, greyhounds,
knew it
love the
wasn't
dog.
England.
Do not
Yeah.
like the coach company, because no condolences, and yeah.
Maybe we'll have to cover the other case and just see how it compares.
Yes, I didn't really look into it.
Fair enough.
So I will let you know if it's one we're going to cover.
Yeah,
no
fair.
promises. I've learned.
Might be awful.
Ooh, drop the iPad. So yeah, thanks for coming, Jess.
Oh, well, thank you for providing the story.
Lovely story.
Lovely story.
Well, thank you for listening, everyone. If you have a case to suggest or a ghost story, you can email us at truecrimecoffinpod@gmail.com.
You can also find us on Twitter at truecrimecoven.
Or on Instagram at truecrimecoffinpod. We are so thankful for everyone who is listening.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for your support. And absolutely, you don't have to, but if you would like to donate anything to the podcast, you can do so by going to ko-fi.com/truecrimecoffinpod. That's ko-fi.com/truecrimecoffinpod. That's all for this week's, guys. So look after yourselves.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for sticking around.
And don't forget to
stay spooky.